Hi, I'm Greg Pruitt with Idaho Dispatch. Over the last several months, we have released a number of articles regarding criminal allegations and inner turmoil in the Caldwell Police Department. In this series of videos, we sit down with someone who has direct knowledge of what is taking place. We want to make sure that our viewers understand that any allegations of criminal activity are just that, allegations. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. The opinions and allegations of this individual do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of those at the Idaho Dispatch. The individual that we sat down with has requested that their identity be concealed for their own safety.
Why, if the corruption that you're talking about and alleged crimes that have not been reported or prosecuted, if all of this is happening, I think some people are going to ask, why has no one said anything? Why aren't all the other police officers who are the good officers, why aren't they up in arms about what's happening?
Because the police department has been replaced by new officers, veteran officers. Maybe 70% of the officers that are currently in service are new, so a lot of times promotions are promised. Bonuses, time off, it's all covered up. Was, maybe still is, in City Hall and Human Resources. Human Resources has done everything they can to place blame on veteran officers or officers who have left the agency under circumstances that did not coexist with the police department. Frank and Devin, they have made certain that the new officers are people they know or have some sort of relationship, knowledge from other people that they trust in their inner circle. Not saying that the new officers are corrupt, because I don't believe they are, but I do believe that the purpose of getting rid of the veteran officers was to replace with officers to prevent any criminal activity that could be released to the public in reference to what's been taking place over the years. So, if you reported something you had seen firsthand, you would not be promoted. You would be blacklisted. Sometimes things have been reported. The policy makes very clear that you report to your immediate supervisor. But those immediate supervisors have been given those positions to do just that. Weed out anything they could possibly harm. Frank Wyatt's leadership, and then if you are someone who complains, they will target you, make your life miserable, force you out one way or another. They will pretend that it's in your best interest to go elsewhere. But maybe it is.
So one of the other stories that Idaho Dispatch broke was a story about a source who had told us that an officer named Adam Matthews was brought back under what was quoted as shady circumstances. And what had happened in this story was that Officer Matthews had gotten 2 DUIs, I think in a 3-day span, blew an excessive DUI on one of them, and the city of Caldwell, for the Caldwell Police Department, had created this new position called a community outreach coordinator, and 16 people applied for the job according to the city of Caldwell, and Adam Matthews got that job. It was not a police officer job, it was just a job within the department. And about a year and a half after he got that job, he moved back onto the force and was in that position was completely dissolved and no longer existed. And then about a year later, I think Sergeant Matthews was given his sergeant stripes back, and that's what the source that we had talked to described as shady circumstances. So it's, I guess, first of all, would it be uncommon for someone with 2 DUIs to come back onto a police force, or 1 DUI? A lot of people had some questions about just officers in general with DUIs and how that works. And then, what were or are your thoughts on, how that whole process unfolded, and does that play into what you're describing here today as far as the culture of the department?
Adam Matthews is a good friend of Frank Wyatt and Devin Riley. The city recommended separation, mostly because of the embarrassment, but they were also okay with bringing him back. This decision was made by the chief, Frank Wyatt, supported by city council members and the mayor. To secretly bring him back created a new position. To my knowledge, that position no longer exists, but the duties are still there. Divided up among other officers. Normally, when a police officer commits a misdemeanor, there is decertification based on the recommendation of the chief of police. To my knowledge, Adam Matthews was never decertified. He couldn't have been. There's no way he would still be a police officer. So, I guess you have to look at the system from the post to the leadership of Caldwell and what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And I feel that Adam was a major part of their future. When they first discussed bringing Adam back, there was a lot of people upset over it, but we were not allowed to speak of it. We knew ahead of time, 6 months longer, that they were creating this position solely for Adam Matthews and his return.
A number of times today you've talked about the Good Old Boys Club, and in some of the comments on our articles, we see quite a few people saying that it seems like it's a Good Old Boys Club in Caldwell. Do you believe that Officer Matthews was part of that, and so they wanted to bring him back for that reason? Or, you know, some people online have said he was a good officer and made some mistakes and deserved another chance to come back on, and they didn't have a problem with it.
Adam Matthews was brought back because of his friendship with Frank Wyatt and Devin Riley. He is an ally, an inside spy to other officers who disagree with the leadership. Adam Matthews has played roles to get officers, high-ranking officers, fired from the agency. Adam Matthews may have changed his life around and was given another chance, but the way in which he returned leaves a very dark cloud over the agency and the leadership of the police department's decision-making, but the chief didn't care because Adam is a friend. His return as a police officer with the city of Caldwell was achieved with the help of City Council, 1, maybe 2 members, City Hall, Human Resources, the Chief of Police, Frank Wyatt, and Captain Devin Riley.
What has to happen, in your opinion, on changing the culture of the Caldwell Police Department, or the city administrators, city council members, mayors, whatever it is? What do you think would help the public understand what is happening, and how would that change?
Complete new leadership from council seats 4, 5, and 6. The removal of all leadership from lieutenants up at the police department. Anyone promoted from 2016 to present needs to be removed or relocated to another position within the city, or allowed to a fair transfer to another agency. Mayor Nancolis, now that he's gone, is very beneficial for the city. Although a very nice and charismatic man, as a mayor, again, once the spotlight is off, he's not a nice man.
You're talking about a mayor was the mayor of Caldwell for 2.5 decades.
26 years.
So the mayor is a very revered member of the community. A lot of people like him and say, as you have said, he's a nice man. Are you alleging that he knew about some of the things that have happened that you've talked about and didn't do anything about it, or are you assuming that that's the case, and do you have direct knowledge that perhaps Mayor Nancolis knew about some of this stuff?
Mayor Nancolis always knew what the police department was doing. He had special interest in making certain that the chief of police was in his back pocket. Nothing happened at the police department without his knowledge and his approval. I've thought about it often that the mayor, there's a reason that Mayor Nancolis has kept the police chief close.
But is it one thing to say the mayor would typically, of any city, would be fairly close with the police chief. They're the ones that typically, do pick the police chief of any given town. There's a difference between you kind of know the police chief and you have a broad understanding of how the department works, but isn't there a difference when it comes to, Lieutenant Hoadley, for instance, was accused of hitting someone and is now being charged, and knowing about that versus just...
Lieutenant Hoadley is a very good friend of the mayor's son. Lieutenant Hoadley would often directly speak to the mayor, requesting changes that Lieutenant Hoadley saw fit, for whatever those reasons might have been. They had an extremely close relationship, and may have played a part in why the mayor chose not to run again. Knowing this FBI investigation eventually was going to come out to the public, Garrett Nankolis did know of this investigation from the beginning. Mike Poehler, city council member, knew this investigation had started from the beginning. The current mayor knew prior to his departure and new leadership as the mayor of the city of Caldwell.
Do you believe that, if you ask some of these individuals, about the investigation, the usual response is that they can't comment because it's an ongoing investigation, and that's maybe what they're going to say, or what other people might say, yeah, well, they can't talk anyways. What's your response to that?
They won't, because I think they've been scrambling. I don't know that they knew the severity up until recently. City council seats 1 and 3, brand new. They had no knowledge. The newly appointed Jeff Williams, the pastor for the city of Caldwell, had knowledge. Chris Allgood had knowledge. John McGee had knowledge. Jaron Wagner had knowledge. But to the extent and the severity in which the FBI is investigating, I don't believe that they knew how bad it really was until now. And so now, I would suspect that, I think, Idaho County's risk management is probably helping with the legal advice to not make any comment about the investigation, because I see that this is going to cost them a great deal of money in the end, and embarrassment, which it should. They are part of the problem. Those leadership positions need to be held accountable.